Good morning. The goal of today's lesson is for you to edit and revise your book and to start publishing. Notice I said start because usually publishing takes a little while. So if you feel like you can get it all done today, that's fine. If you need to work on it again tomorrow, that's fine too. We'll be reading them on Flipgrid on Friday, so make sure you have it done by Friday. Okay, so let me turn my camera and show you what you're going to need for today. You're going to need to have your 5 pages, chapters already done and written. If you did more than 5, that's fine, but I'd like you to have 5. And then you're going to need something to edit and revise with. And then you're going to need some paper to do your publishing with. Now, if you still have that folded book that I gave you in your red folder to use for young authors, if you didn't use that for anything else, that would be perfect to use for this. If you used it for something else, that's okay. You could just do it on regular pieces of paper. Oh, dropped my camera. My bad. This isn't ideal here. Okay, you can just use regular pieces of paper that you just, you don't even have to staple them, but you could staple here. Or if you get another piece of paper, you could fold them in half. Now, you probably won't be able to staple them in the middle. You could, but usually to do it so that it folds nicely, we use something called a long reach stapler, but that's okay. Right there, that would be a fine book. So if you're going to do a folded book, I'd say about 5 pieces of paper probably would be good. If you're going to do like a 1-page paper book, like just leave the page big, you're probably going to need more than 5 because you're going to need to add a table of contents. Okay, so first of all, today we need to work on revision and editing. Revise and edit are 2 different things. So I'm actually going to fold this in half because you're going to want to revise first. When you revise, you're working on adding, removing, moving, and substituting. We call that ARMS, A-R-M-S. So adding, do I need to add whole sentences because what I said doesn't really make sense? Or do I just need to add some words in because I left words out and it needs more detail? Or it's too short of a sentence, and a lot of mine are kindergarten sentences. Can we remove things like I don't need to say this sentence, it doesn't actually make sense in my story, or I said it 2 times, so I'm going to take one out. Moving would be if you have something in the wrong order and it makes more sense to switch it around and put this sentence at the top. And then substituting would be like wow words if you use the word big and you want to switch it to humongous. You want to revise first because the editing, we're going to work on like spelling and capitals and stuff like that. And you'll want to make sure that you have done your adding and stuff first because that may change how you do it. All right, so I'm going to start with, by the way, when I did my list over here, I said quilling. I meant to say anointing. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm going to read you my anointing story, and we'll revise this together. So I've got a title. Notice I've got some things that I marked off. This isn't my best handwriting, but that's okay because that's my rough draft, and I will write it in my best handwriting when I do it in this book. Okay, so anointing. Here we go. Hedgehogs do a strange and unique thing called anointing. My hedgehog did that a lot. And you know what I could add in? I could add in the name of my hedgehog. Then I'm adding some more detail. My hedgehog, and his name named Guido. It's the little guy on cars that always says pit stop. Did that a lot. The first time he did it, I was disgusted. And that's a good word instead of I thought it was gross. Disgusted is a pretty good wow word, so I'm not going to change that. They do it when they smell a strong smell. I was wearing perfume, so my hedgehog started licking my wrist where I had sprayed my perfume. Then he turned it into a foam in his mouth and spit it all over his body. Guys, this is a true story. That's what anointing is. Luckily, that was a good smell, but they do it with bad smells too. Yuck. And you know what? I'm actually going to add in a sentence here because I'll tell you about a time that he did it with a bad smell. I think that would be a funny detail. He once did it with a dead cricket. And I'm going to put an exclamation point on that because that's pretty surprising. And it's true and disgusting. So they lick it, and then they get this foam in their mouth, and then they just turn to go, and they spit it all over their body. And so they have this like foam all over them. And so if it's a good smell like my perfume, it doesn't really smell bad, but it's still gross because they're like foamy all over their body. But if it's a bad smell, then it's even grosser because not only is it foam, it's stinky foam. So then they need a bath. But okay, so for revising on this, I added a whole sentence and I added a little detail there. I don't feel like anything needs to be removed. Nothing seemed like it was off topic or anything. I don't feel like anything needed to be moved. Everything seemed to be in order pretty good. And substituting, I already had a pretty good wow word here, disgusted. Anointing is a pretty good word. I could switch this. I said, luckily that was a good smell. I could switch good to a better, to a wow word. What would be another word that means good? Luckily that was a delicious smell. Let's do delicious. Delicious smell, but they do it with bad smells too. I could change bad as well. They do it with nasty smells too. Nasty is a better word. Okay, so that is my revision. You would want to do this with all 5 of your stories before you go to editing, but I'm just not gonna make you sit here and watch me do this, or this will be a 50-minute long video. So we're going to switch to the editing side. When you're editing, you're looking to see, did you put capitals in the right spaces at the beginning of each sentence, proper nouns, so names, places, months, and titles. Usage, so you match your nouns and verbs correctly, they make sense. Again, I always do Vaughn as an example for this. So if you say like her hit me, her, it would be she hit me. So think about that when they say usage. Or like I jump yesterday. I jumped yesterday? No, I jumped yesterday. That's what I mean by usage. So you'll read through and check and see how you did with that. Punctuation, you should always have periods, exclamation points or question marks at the end of a sentence, and you could use quotations if you said something, or commas if there's a series of words, and then work on the spelling. Spelling never has to be perfect, obviously. I always say that. But if you know you spelled something wrong, or you're like, I don't even think somebody would know what this word says if they read my story, ask your parents how to spell it and see if they can help you with that. So the best way you can edit is reread your piece and use your checking fingers. We've talked about that. So I'm going to use my checking fingers this time. Let me get my camera situated. Hopefully it will not fall on me. Checking fingers means my first finger is going to find a capital in the sentence, and my second finger is going to find the punctuation in the sentence. Hedgehogs, capital, do a strange and unique thing called anointing, period. There's my sentence. Good. Next one. My hedgehog named Guido did that a lot. Exclamation point. So this, when I'm doing my checking fingers, I am only doing checking for capitalization and punctuation, and you would do that through your whole story. To check for usage and spelling, you'll have to kind of pay attention to which words you don't think you did right. But usage, again, that's that rereading where you're like, that doesn't sound right to me. Okay, so once you've done all of your revision and editing for all 5 pieces, now it's time to decide what order to put them in. I have them written in this order on my paper, but that's just because that's the way they came into my brain. That doesn't mean that's going to be the best way to put them in my story, because especially here I notice I have 2 lists in a row, and I don't know that would be a super fun way to read a book, reading a whole bunch of lists in a row. So let me see. I don't know that I want to start with a story about anointing, because that's kind of a unique thing that might be better to be like the ending. What hedgehogs eat might be good to start with. I could do that list first. But see what I mean? Here's 2 lists in a row. If I had 2 lists in a row in my book, that probably wouldn't be super interesting. So maybe I'm outside if you can't tell. Somebody's dog. That's not my dog. Somebody else's. I'm going to start with the list of what hedgehogs eat. Then I like how hedgehogs exercise. I'll put that second. I'll do accessories for their cage, hibernation, and actually I'll do anointing first and then hibernation. Okay, so that's an order that I think makes sense, that I like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting it into my book. But the very first thing you want to do in your book is do a table of contents on the inside. When you make your table of contents at the beginning, you're only going to write the topics in order. Don't actually put the page numbers. And the reason for that is, notice when I wrote my first one that I had a really big piece of paper. So if you go to one of my longer ones, like the anointing one, it took a whole bunch of the page. These pages are smaller, so it might take more than a page. So you want to just write the order that you're going to put them in, and then you can fill in the page numbers at the end, so that if one of your pages took several papers in your published book, you can add those page numbers in and they're accurate. So for table of contents, I am going, and notice it's not stapled together, not a big deal. We'll survive. All right, I'm going to write table of contents. And since this is my published piece, I'm going to use my best handwriting. And it may not be a good idea to write with a marker. You might want to just do pencil. So if you make a mistake, you can still fix it. I just didn't grab a pencil when I came outside. Okay, so the first one, I can number this because this isn't page number. This is the topic, is going to be what hedgehogs eat. And I will put the page number here after I've written it. All right, my second one is how hedgehogs exercise. I'm just going to call it exercise. Best handwriting. Page number will go there when I'm done publishing it. Accessories. Can you hear that woodpecker? That little noise? That is a woodpecker up in a tree somewhere. It's farther away, so it's not at my house, thank goodness, but it's definitely a woodpecker. Woodpeckers are a nuisance. They make holes in your trees or sometimes even in your house. Not great. All right, and in hibernation. Okay, so now I am ready to publish. I have my table of contents ready. So my first one is going to be what hedgehogs eat. So when I do this one, all I'm going to do is go to my first page, and it's up to you if you're just going to use this side or if you want to use both sheets. Just be consistent whichever you choose. And so then I'll do what hedgehogs eat, and I'll keep copying it in my best handwriting. At the end, I'll put in my page numbers on the bottom of each page, and I'll write how many pages it ended up being. So goal for today, go through and revise and edit. Look at that checklist. I put this exact thing is on the LMS so that you can check it. So revise and edit, then decide what order you're going to put it in, and then actually publish your book. If you're tired of doing it today and you just need a break, that's okay. Take a break, finish it later today, or do it tomorrow. But on Friday, I'm going to put a Flipgrid up on the LMS, and I want you to read your book, your finished book, on the LMS so that our friends can see it, and then you can comment on other people's, just like we did in the Flipgrid in class. I didn't mention pictures, but absolutely pictures would be fantastic. Since mine is about my hedgehog, I might actually put a real picture of my hedgehog, or I could just draw one. What hedgehogs eat. One of the things is crickets. I could draw a cricket. That makes it a lot more interesting. If you think about look at my dog. What a goofball. If you think about the all about books that we've written, Zodiac! What are you doing up there? Get down! Oh, she's just having a good old time in the sun. Crazy girl. If you think about the informational books that we've read in class, they always have pictures. Chapter books, like if it's like even our switch book has pictures, but sometimes chapter books won't have it, but it's always more fun to read a book that has a couple little pictures in it. So have fun. I can't wait to see your books and to read them. See ya.